this will be pretty good for everybody to everybody to listen to. I like Tim's analogies. He called it a throw up sheet. All right. So I call it an opportunity gap. All right. So a little nicer language. But Tim calls it a throw up sheet or a vomit sheet. And really what it is how, well, let me ask you guys, how many of you have looked at all of the leads that you generated over the last 12 months? You looked at all the leads that you generated and you looked at how many homes you actually sold. How many of you guys have done that exercise? And then you start trying to bridge the gap on it. Like some of the leads weren't really leads. Like they shouldn't have been generated at all, correct? And so let's say maybe you get rid of those, but then you're left with like legitimate opportunities, like legit opportunities. So you look at that and you still look at the number of closings you actually had, and it's like, God, you kind of want to throw up. Or it gets even worse. Like, okay, here are the ones we actually talked to, all right, compared to the closings. We talked to this number of people, like texted with them, talked to them, and here's the closings. And it's still a big gap. And then it's like, okay, here's the appointments that we set, for our business this year. And here's our closings. Still a huge gap, and it's like, when does the gap get closed? So I call it an opportunity gap. You were calling it what, Tim? Throw up sheet or something?
Yeah. Throw up sheet. We sold 412 homes, but 345. So what we did was just explain it. We went back through every person we talked to and didn't talk to, but we had a form fill. We broke it down and went and listed with another company, another brokerage. So
that's a really good exercise.
$7 million. So we calculated at 3.5% our normal commission, and yes, it was $7 million lost in commission. So yeah,
$7 million in lost revenue from unconverted business.
We got some holes.
Yeah, everybody does. Every business out there on planet Earth does. But it's the businesses that do something about it, and it really ties into what we're talking about today with your standardization, the process that has a target market or a target a target or a metric or measurable in the process, and once you get that rolling in your business, it's pretty good. But so for example, Tim, even though it's $7.5 million in quote lost revenue, you wouldn't have captured all that revenue anyway, but a portion of it for sure. Let's say if your standards, were quote, in place at the beginning with the form submittals and throughout the rest of the process, then there is a number of loss, but you're at or above your agreed upon standards. So you don't get worked up by it. But I see people get worked up by those big numbers because they're unsure of what it should be. What the number really, we know what it is, and what the outcome is, like what you actually got, but what should the number be?
Right.
What's the real number? And that's just based on a target or a standard throughout each step in the sales process. So
Todd, I think too, the telltale sign on that is what you coach and teach in your marketing. It works, right? It works. It's drawing that attention. These sellers sold their home. These are not people that didn't sign up and didn't sell. These are actual home sellers that sold their home that came to us. So it says the marketing works, but it's just like this massive hole in our boat, right? We got to just go out and we got some fixing to do. And although we convert at about a 60% rate, it could even be better because there was 340. I look at it like 345 families we let down. We just weren't on top of the game for whatever reason. And we just let those people down because we know that.
Well, it is true. It is,
yeah.
But it is true that if they interact with you, you guys have a process and a track record of helping them at a much higher level. Like the results show that. Sales price to list price ratio, days on the market, satisfaction scores, access to vendors and investment properties, like it's a different gig. So yeah, in that respect, people don't know what they don't know, but yes, it. So it doesn't sit.
Yeah. I don't want to get us sidebar off these conversations, but if anybody wants to know, maybe in Cancun, I'll definitely be there. But from all the landing pages from the 100% of asking price to cash offer to your home sold guarantee, to get your home ready program that we're running. I mean, in all these different unique selling propositions, I can share the analytics on what people are sort of clicking on and what people are doing out there. So we can talk a little bit more about that and how the click-throughs and the success rate from all, how the form fills and what people are actually doing out there. It's good exercise on it. I know, like I was talking, like in Georgia, the 100% of action price seems to be doing the trick, but in certain areas, certain things work in certain different ways, with the message market. Something may work in Phoenix, but it may not work in Atlanta, or may not work in, say, Nathan Clark's area or whatever. So it's a mixture of everything. So finding those food spots out there is really critical. Sorry for my.
Yeah, one of the things I get from probably one of the I don't know if complaints are the right word, but from people at this level is their marketing. It's like, you put something out there and it works a little bit, but it doesn't work all the time. Like, you have to make adjustments to it, or you see somebody doing something, a radio commercial, and it's like, ooh, I like that. They're doing really well with it. So you run the radio commercial and you get nothing. Or a direct mail piece. You see somebody running a direct mail and it's like, they're man, I'm crushing it with this. Look at my numbers. And it's like, oh my God, I'm going to do that. So you take it and do it, and you don't get nowhere near those kinds of results. So I get complaints with people around all those things. And I'm like, I don't think, you got to make sure everybody understands it, that getting your, an overflow of your ideal customers is the second most hardest thing you will ever do as a business. So it's in your top 3 of things that you always, always, always have to be working on.